I'm Nicola Talent, and you're listening to Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs, and the sins of the underworld. We're Ireland's top podcast for 2025, and now we've got a new website. So if you want to learn more about crime and criminals, if you want stories, extras, and podcast subscriber specials, go to www.crimeworld.com. There was an interesting case heard this week around Brian Grendon, who is due to be sentenced next week after he's been found guilty on an income tax. You're not paying income tax on a sum of money which was found in his home during a raid in 2022. Now, Grendon is before the courts on an unrelated matter also, but we're just going to refer to this case. So Grendon is described in court as a car dealer, and this relates to a search of his home in 2022 when this sum of money was found in various envelopes, basically in the wardrobe of the home.
Yeah.
He was arrested and held in a Garda station for a considerable period of time, over 36 hours. And how he behaved in the Garda station is quite interesting. We heard the details in the court. He pretty much, keeps silent other than answering a few questions, and to take ownership of the cash. Although he says it's legit, he gets it from car dealing, but it has nothing to do with his wife and children.
Yeah. So he spends, the court heard it took Grendon 36 hours and a night in the Garda station for him eventually to reply, yeah, when asked the question of whether the cash was legitimate. I mean, it must be frustrating for everybody involved in those 36 hours of questioning.
It's a skill, isn't it?
It's a skill on both sides.
Yeah.
It's being parent of a teenager and only getting the response, after 36 hours. It would be tough.
Yeah.
But eventually, he did reply when asked, why did it take you so long to say yeah? He replied that he likes staying in a Garda station.
Yeah.
So,
well,
but fair enough. We all have our preferences. But
so his home is in Rowla Park in Clondalkin.
Yeah.
And Grendon actually ultimately, who's 48, pleaded guilty to this charge of failing to remit income tax payable.
Yeah.
And this was before Dublin Circuit Criminal Court. This was the sentence hearing, and he's due to be sentenced next week. This is a charge under the Taxes Consolidation Act of 1997, and it carries a maximum penalty of up to 5 years imprisonment or a fine.
Yeah, which would be, I think, you'd be unlucky to get 5 years for a sentence like this,
particularly with a guilty plea.
Yes, and now originally he was charged with a money laundering offence, but that was ultimately dropped by the state. So this is quite a technical charge about not paying income tax. Obviously, this sum of money was found during the searches. It was put to him by gardaí that he was part of an organised crime group, and he was questioned. The court heard about other seizures of cash and drugs, but he denied this cash in the envelopes was his and claimed he was not involved in crime in any shape or form. And
I suppose we should say that the state in doing this sort of deal with him, that he accepted a guilty plea on the lesser charge, the state prosecutor, Kate Egan, outlined that proposal was accepted by the DPP on the basis that the money found reflects the proceeds of income.
Yes.
Not declared for the purpose of tax. Because Grendon insisted that this was income.
Yeah.
That the money came from the sale of cars. He was asked about a dog grooming business, which he said he knew nothing about, but that this money had pretty much come from buying and selling second-hand cars.
Yeah, and buying and sell, he says specifically, it could only be from cars, and it's from me shipping cars. That's it. And it was put to him again that his explanation was not true, and the guards believed the cash to be the proceeds of crime, and that, and this is a quote, "You are a main player in an organised crime group," but Grendon denied this, and he spoke about being in the car business for 13 years, which is true, and he admitted, or he spoke about having a big bill with revenue of over $1 million, but he insisted he'd been dealing cars, and he seems to have had...
He has currently a big bill with revenue of over $1 million.
He said he had a revenue with $1 million, including penalties that he was trying to resolve at this moment. Right. But he said he was dealing cars for cash, and he produced a letter saying, outlining that he was director of a company and that the company was in difficulties.
Okay. Now, during the sentence hearing, Detective Garda Liam Enniston said that the home was searched on January the 19th of 2022, and he and his partner were in the house at the time. During the search of his bedroom, the Gardaí found 8 white envelopes in a wardrobe, and they contained sums of cash divided into smaller denominations, and a small bundle of unwrapped cash was also found. As you said, he insisted that the cash could be from cars and did not belong to his wife or his children. So he was the only one arrested and interviewed in relation to it.
Yeah, he took that responsibility. Now, he had a report from his accountant. He basically said because the company was in difficulties and had been located as well in the North and in the UK, and that because there was an issue with the tax authorities in the UK, and due to the late filing of a deadline, the company was basically dissolved. He only dealt in cash, and that was his explanation for all of these
envelopes of money.
Yeah.
Now, the court heard 24 previous convictions, mostly for road traffic offences. 18 of them are road traffic, and one is for assault causing harm, one for the possession of drugs for sale and supply. But that dates back to 2001,
Yeah.
and he received a 6-year sentence for that. His most recent non-driving related offence dates back over 20 years, which is
a long time.
A long time.
So for the last 2 decades after serving the sentence that's described in court in relation to drug dealing offences, he's effectively not come before the courts or not been convicted of any offence. And Brian Grendon's defence said he was willing to carry out community service and ask for as much leniency as possible.
Okay, and the court heard that he was in the car business, the car trade, since 2008. He has no addiction issues.
Yeah.
He has 3 adult children and is assisting with his own mother who has health issues. And it was his own legal team that actually said in court that he is currently remanded in custody on an unrelated matter.
Yeah.
For which his legal team said he intends to apply for bail.
Yeah, so this is obviously this tax charge. It could be a 5 years, but the defence are asking for community service, so it'll be up to the judge on February the 4th to probably find the balance for those 2 competing desires.
For sure, and we'll come back to it then.
Thanks, Nicola.
Have you checked out our new website, crimeworld.com, where you'll find ad-free exclusive content, including our new series, The Science of Fear, about the rise and fall of Daniel Kinahan's right-hand man, Thomas Bomber Kavanagh. Subscribers can listen to all 9 parts, but for those of you not yet signed up, here's an extract from part 1. It's July 25th. Ipswich Crown Court. 3 of Ireland's most notorious criminals flicker onto the courtroom screens from prisons across England. Thomas Bomber Kavanagh appears on Zoom from Belmarsh Prison, looking surprisingly tanned and trim in a dark grey t-shirt. Beside him on the screen, his lieutenants Gary Flash Vickery and Daniel Canning appear from other prisons, fidgeting in their seats. In contrast, Kavanagh sits bolt upright, with arms folded across his chest, and listens intently in an interview room with bathroom blue walls. As a female prison guard nips in and out of Kavanagh's interview room, the exasperated judge, Justice Martin Levitt, stops proceedings to scold, "We'll just wait for Belmarsh to stop coming in and out of the room because it's interrupting us yet again." Over the morning, there are various arguments set out by wigged barristers who call each other "my learned friend" in clipped British accents. But the outcome is clear. Kavanagh has 3 months to pay back more than €1.26 million in criminal assets, or face another 12 years in prison. One by one, the court strips him of his assets: luxury watches, designer clothes, equity in a Majorcan property, rental income, cash seized by police, and even the cost of a family holiday to Cancun. And the biggest blow, his half share of a fortified Tamworth mansion the marble-floored stronghold where he reigned like an Italian mob boss in the English Midlands. The court was told his wife, Joanne Byrne, the sister of David Byrne, who was murdered in the Regency, had not responded to a court notice. Kavanagh, sitting at a wooden desk in Belmarsh, betrays no sign of emotion at the prospect of losing the family home. But behind that blank stare is a man who once weaponised fear with precision. Police wiretaps revealed a mobster, almost scientific, in his obsession with torture, casually calculating exactly how much pain he could inflict, terrifying men into loyalty without paralysing them completely. Britain's National Crime Agency finally brought him down, jailing him for 26 years. Now, here in Ipswich Crown Court, they're dismantling what's left of his empire. And then, one final twist. It appears that Bomber couldn't do his time. In a scheme that wouldn't have been out of place in a Guy Ritchie movie, Kavanagh tried to shave some time off his 21-year sentence for drug smuggling by orchestrating a plot from behind bars. Hoping to dupe authorities into handing him a lighter sentence, he tried to lead the National Crime Agency officers to a weapons stash. Instead, he was rumbled and slapped with another 6 years. We spoke to some of the NCA officers who were involved in taking Bomber down, including one who was tasked with following the money. It was a job that took him across international borders.
This particular case, I would say, was complex because we had overseas assets in Ireland and in Spain, Lanzarote, and there was also the inquiries when pulling together the investigation as well. Because there was Dutch hauliers involved. There was drugs were coming in, say, from the Netherlands. They were coming in from Spain. So there was quite a lot of international partners we were involved with when we were pulling this together. So the actual value of the drugs, which was agreed on between the prosecution and defence, eventually was 10,470,833, and that was it was 3,750,833 of cannabis and 6,720,000 pounds worth of cocaine. The benefit figure for Thomas, with all the other assets involved, we agreed on just over 12 million of benefit from his criminality. And we started off somewhere around 15, 16 million. So we've come down about 4 million. And the majority of that is the difference in the value of the drugs. Knowing the significance of him, it was really great result to get him convicted and now to get the confiscation order against him as well and have that benefit hanging over him.
Officers who went through the rows of designer gear in Bomber's gated mansion were astonished at the sheer scale of luxury goods. The drug proceeds had been splurged on luxury and security in almost equal measure. The place was sealed, reinforced doors, bulletproof glass, and cameras covering every approach. Inside was a display of wealth that would rival that of Imelda Marcos. Money was lavished on Moncler jackets, a shoe collection worthy of a Saudi princess, and a watch collection fit for a Premier League dressing room. The list goes on. 30 pairs of identical Armani jeans, Gucci labels, a collection of handbags that a Kardashian would be proud of. This was how the cartel's profits were laundered, through spending sprees and rolls of cash handed across the shop counters in Harrods. The definition of ill-gotten gains was hanging in wardrobes in his luxury mansion in Tamworth. Cartel members know the risk of peddling drugs across international borders, but when officers start rifling through their six-figure wardrobes, confiscating their luxury watches and handbag collections, it does hit a nerve.
A lot of criminals are quite happy, getting imprisoned for the crime is part of the job. But when you actually say, now we're going to take all your assets, that's when it gets personal, because that's the reason they're committing crime, is for their lifestyle. That's their job. And we are then taking it all away or getting an order to take it away. So that's when it can get quite personal.
The court's inventory of Bomber's lavish spending gave an inkling into just how far removed he'd become from the day-to-day drug trade. He oversaw the delegation of smuggling routes, of finance and of enforcement to trusted lieutenants. The proceedings in Ipswich Crown Court didn't just mark the fall of Thomas Bomber Kavanagh's personal empire, they also signalled something far bigger. Bomber's collapse marks the first true fracture in what had long looked like an impenetrable underworld machine. The cartel's chief strategist, the man who kept its international supply lines running smoothly, had finally been taken down. Seen as untouchable for years, his sentence for importing tens of millions of pounds of drugs was a major shot across the bow of the Kinahan cartel. And just 2 weeks after Kavanagh's sentencing, the United States raised the stakes.
And so today, the United States Department of State is pleased to announce a reward of up to $5 million for information leading to the financial disruption of the KTCO or the arrest and convictions of its leaders, Christopher Vincent Kinahan, Daniel Joseph Kinahan, and Christopher Kinahan Jr.
You've been listening to an extract from our 9-part series, The Science of Fear, about the rise and fall of Daniel Kinahan's right-hand man, Thomas Bomber Kavanagh. To listen to all 9 parts, log on to crimeworld.com and hit subscribe.